Please help me welcome to the stage, Barb Holland.
Hi. As an science junkie and clinical lab scientist, I've spent over 35 years working in the healthcare field. For 23 of those years, I worked in a hematology lab of a large hospital, and I was subspecialized into the field of thrombosis and hemostasis. Now, while you may not know what all that means, in a nutshell, it's a complex world of blood tests and medical thinking where patients show up with symptoms, doctors diagnose it, and then they treat the patient with either pharmaceuticals or surgery. Now, this was my world. It was analytical, it was orderly, and it was very technical. Now, I want to share a story with you, and I want to invite you to listen with an open mind and suspend your judgment, because quite frankly, when this happened, I totally had to suspend mine. It was 1999, and a nurse friend of mine invited me to attend a healing touch training session with her. And I had absolutely no idea what that was, and I could already feel my skeptical scientific brain clicking into gear. She went on to explain that it was energy healing, and that's where a practitioner channels energy to a client to balance their energy, and this in turn releases any stuck energy and allows the patient's own self-healing mechanism to take over. Now, I gave her one of these, and it was just really starting to sound like some crazy woo-woo thing to me. And it did not fit in with any of my beliefs about healing, which were rooted in Western medicine. Now, I was about to dismiss the whole thing as pure bunk when she said something that really got my attention. She said, "A lot of nurses use it. It's reported to speed up wound healing." Now, finally, she said something that made some sense to me. Some quantifiable medical evidence. Okay, I told her, now I'm intrigued. I'll go with you. So in the Healing Touch training program, they explained energy this way, that energy, picture energy flowing through your body, much like water flows through a garden hose. When the hose gets kinked, the water stops flowing and everything backs up. Unkink the hose and everything returns to normal. It's much like that with energy. The energy in your body is meant to flow freely through its channels. And if it gets stuck, then the body's self-healing mechanism gets compromised. Energy healing is really just a generic term for about 125 different varieties of therapies. Healing touch is just one of them. You might be familiar with some of the others, such as Reiki, reconnective healing, body talk, reflexology, acupressure. And this is what some of the therapies look like. The practitioner channels energy to the client through their hands, and some of you might think this looks a little weird. I still do. But consider that cell towers send text messages over the airwaves. We can't see those invisible signals, but we know that something is happening because the text shows up on our phone. And just because you can't see it doesn't mean it's not working. Now, as part of the Healing Touch training program, we would offer these free energy healing clinics so we could get some real human beings to practice on. And one day, these two ladies walk into the clinic. One lady is obviously familiar with those clinics, and she's very relaxed. The other lady, I'll call her Helen, was completely the opposite. She was very guarded, and she had this rigid body language. She had her arms crossed across her chest like this, and she's looking at us as if to say, "I don't know about you people." So we invited her to lay on the table, because I was afraid she was going to bolt out the door. And we were about 10 minutes, and when she laid on the table, she still maintained that very rigid body posture. And we're about 10 minutes into the session, and I was working down by her knees, and this crazy thought popped into my head. And it said, "You don't have to worry about your mother anymore." Now, this shocked me because my mother had passed several years before that. And I'm thinking to myself, why am I thinking that, and why am I thinking it right now? Then I saw Helen suddenly relax. And her arms fell to her side, and this very tense, rigid woman fell sound asleep. She even started snoring. And we finished the session, and we actually had to wake her up. And as she sat up, she said what most people say after they've had an energy healing treatment. She said, "I feel relaxed." Then she looked me dead in the eye and said, "You know, I've been worrying about my mother lately, but I don't think I have to anymore." And whoa, something just happened here that I cannot explain with my scientific facts. But Helen's worry was removed, and her whole body relaxed in response. Oh my gosh, I thought to myself, healing takes place on more than one level. Now this flew in the face of everything I believed about healing. I only ever thought of it as a physical thing. Now something else seemed to be involved. Then I had another thought. That something else that was happening before disease showed up. Now that, in my mind, that would make disease some kind of a process with multiple steps, much like a chain of dominoes. And with the actual physical disease was the last domino to fall. Now I suddenly saw Helen's worry as one of those dominoes. And if you've ever played with a domino chain, you know that you can stop that chain from falling by simply plucking out one of those dominoes. And Helen's worry was plucked out by the energy healing. Then I thought, could we actually prevent disease with energy healing? With that, I could feel my very tidy little medical world shift like some giant rusty gear being cranked into a new position. What could be possible for humanity if this were true? Could we heal people with energy treatments? And after my experience with Helen, I began to shift my view from seeing human beings as strictly physical objects to one where we were both physical and energetic. And this was a view where something was happening on an energetic level first and a physical level second. And a view where we could actually intervene in the disease process using energy healing on an energetic level. Now, the advanced scientific principles of quantum physics and string theory back my line of thinking up. Quantum physics says everything at its basic level is just energy waves. And string theory says everything is vibrating. So we are energetic. And maybe our bodies at the most basic level work a lot like an orchestra. When all our vibrations are in harmony, we have well-being. And when those vibrations are not in harmony, we experience it as dis-ease or stress. And the product of that eventually shows up in our bodies as illness. Now, following that line of logic, it occurred to me that our thoughts and emotions would also be very specific energy patterns with very specific vibrations, just like color. We see the color red because it has a very specific vibration. We see the color green because it has its own very unique vibration. Now, what if Helen's worry, her stress, was simply a disharmonious vibration that she kept sending out to her body over and over again, like a bad cell phone signal? This prolonged bombardment over time, eventually that would wear her body down. Now, we all know that stress can kill you. We've heard that for years. And a lot of us know that about all the chemical reactions that happen in our bodies when we're under stress. But what if it all begins with the negative energy vibrations created from our thoughts and emotions? That would make stress an internal thing, not something coming at us from the outside world like that traffic jam on the freeway. It would be about the vibrations we send up to our bodies when we generate those negative thoughts and feelings about the traffic on the freeway. Said another way, stress would be an internal phenomenon of an energetic nature. So now it totally made sense to me that we could remove stress, worry, anxiety using energy healing and completely interrupt the disease process. It would become a world of treating energetic issues with energetic therapies. Does this sound far-fetched? It's already happening. Just recently, the emotional freedom technique, also known as tapping, another form of energy healing, was put on the VA's list of safe treatments for veterans dealing with post-traumatic stress disease. There's something going on out there beyond modern medicine. It's called energy healing. And I believe that it will propel us to a whole new level of understanding about disease, stress, and what it means to heal. And I think Nikola Tesla says it best: the day science begins to study non-physical phenomenon, it will make more progress in 1 decade than in all the previous centuries of its existence. Thank you.